Hey there, welcome back to the garage. It's Matt, and I am out here today working on the boat. You'll notice there's no hood on the car, and that is because I am going to be pulling the engine out of this thing today. Assembled rotor. Got a couple things that I need to do on the car, and having the engine out of the car is going to make them significantly easier. One of them, I've got an oil leak on the back of the engine, so obviously that's going to be a little bit easier to work on. I think it may be the rear main seal. I'm hoping it's not, but it is possible. I got to deal with that. I have to get the steering gearbox out of this car. It's the brand new Borgeson quicker ratio power steering gearbox. Replacement power steering gearbox for the 65 through, I don't remember what year it ends, but through the late 60s, at least into the 70s, I'm pretty sure. Full-size Fords. So it's a much nicer driving steering gearbox. It's a lot quicker ratio. But the downside is, and I'm blaming COVID for mine. Mine was made right at the height of COVID. When businesses were having problems getting supplies, employees were scarce. Mine is leaking out of the input shaft seal. I got a hold of Borgeson, and they said that it's definitely covered under warranty. Just need to send it in. I've been dreading pulling it out because it's a pain to get to with the engine in there. So that's going to be another benefit of having the engine out. All right, pivot arm is loose. I need to do the rag joint. All right, that is unbolted from the column. Let's see if I can get this off. We'll go with the small hammer. No, that ain't moving. I'm gonna have to use a puller. Which I should have in here. Bolt C-clamp. Here we go. What size is this? Probably 3/4. There it goes. It popped. right. Sweet. Having the right tools really helps sometimes. There it is. All right. Ow. All right, let's see. On that. There's the nut. Nah, that ain't gonna fit. This is gonna take 2 wrenches. All right, 3 bolts that hold it to the frame are off. Pitman arm is loose. Input is off. Let's get this thing out of here. Let go. Pitman arm, there it goes. All right, steering gearbox. This is right here, or where the power steering lines come in to the box. Hang it right there. Get a rag. So one of these is high pressure, which is this guy here. This one is the low pressure side. So the difference is high pressure being the side that's powering the steering gearbox. The low pressure side is the return that just sends the power steering fluid back to the power steering pump. Bolts to the frame, bolt here, and bolt down here. Input shaft is right here, output shaft is down there. That turns the Pitman arm, which steers the car. What's going on here is this is pressurized when the car is running. power steering pump is pumping a high pressure hydraulic fluid through this. I was having a leak and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I checked all my lines repeatedly. Everything up here where the lines plugged in was completely dry. The only thing I could figure left, and then now that it's out of the box, it's a little bit easier to see. But it is totally wet up here. There's actually fluid pooled in the top there. If I can get this steering coupler off of here, which looks like I have to take that off to get it off. All right, so steering coupler's off, out of the way. I'm gonna have to clean this up. This is a new one. It's nothing fancy. They call it a rag joint. It's made out of a chunk of old tire. Literally a chunk of old tire. And it's just bolted together between this part that's attached to the steering column and then the other part, actually I take it back, steering column's on this side here. This is the side that goes into here, onto the steering gearbox. But let me set that down. Let me get my gloves off so I can show you with the other camera what this input seal looks like. All right, so if you look down here, this power steering pump is brand new. But, let me get it to focus. Right in there, in the center of that screen, see at the bottom, down there, you can see power steering fluid pooled. It's been leaking there for quite a while. This is not, like up here, it's a fresh leak. There's no dirt attached to it. This is where it was all dry prior to me disconnecting the hoses. And you can see there's no dirt buildup. When you've got a fluid leak, dust and dirt sticks to it. So if you come over here, you can see all the dust and dirt that is stuck to that. And this thing's got maybe 3,000 miles on it since I rebuilt it. So you can see where it's been leaking. It's actually been going down the frame of the car. Let's see if I can get an angle to show you. Actually, right down there, you can see the drip on the ground. That's power steering fluid. That is where the power steering pump mounts, or the steering gearbox mounts. So that fluid's been coming out of the top of the gearbox, dripping down the frame rail, which I wiped off when I was under there working on it. But then it's been going down and dripping way back behind where the actual leak is. So, time to send that thing back. Shipped this off to Borgeson. I got a return authorization RMA number from them, shipped it off to them to get it repaired under warranty, which they did. However, there was a little bit of a snafu in the return shipping. They just shipped it to the address that they had on file for me, which is about 2.5 years old. And I haven't lived there in 2 years. So after I hadn't received it for a while, I emailed them. They're like, oh no, we shipped it back. It shows that it was delivered on the 22nd of last month. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I didn't receive it. Where'd you ship it? They shipped it to the house I used to live in. The weird part of this whole thing was the person who's currently living there, it's a rental house. The person who's currently living there received it, knew it wasn't theirs. They just stuck it in their garage. We're hanging on to it. They didn't do anything like get a hold of the shipper and say that it was delivered to the wrong location. I mean, it's pretty obvious who sent it. The company name is on the return address label. For that matter, my name and phone number are on the shipping label. They didn't contact me. They didn't get a hold of UPS. They didn't drop it off at a UPS store. They didn't get a hold of their property manager to find out if my name sounded familiar, which it would have, because that's how I ended up getting a hold of them, is I got a hold of the property manager for that house, and they got a hold of the current resident who said, oh yeah, we have the box, it's in our garage. She also was a little baffled as to why they just hung on to it instead of doing something. But anyway, after 60 miles, a couple of round trips, driving from one city to another to get this, I was able to retrieve it. So got it home, opened the box up. Thankfully, they hadn't opened it. They just stuck it in the garage. So open the box up, and it definitely looks like they went through it. The seal looks like it's been replaced. It's got a bunch of power steering fluid all over it now, so I'm gonna, just from shipping, because these little plastic plugs always tend to leak. So I'm gonna clean this thing up. I'm gonna put the rag joint back on here. I'm gonna stick it back in the car, and then I'm gonna start getting ready to put the engine back in. I'm gonna clean off some of this power steering fluid that's leaked all over it in shipping. Just use a little brake clean for that. Just gonna wipe it off. I don't want to spray the crap out of it and have the brake clean everywhere as well. So I'm just gonna wipe it off with a damp rag. But that way, once this thing's in the car, I will be assured that if there's fluid leaking, it's not because it was on here in the first place before it went back in. All right, that's clean. Here's the rag joint. Actually, I'm gonna clean it off a little bit too. So, there is, I'm gonna roll this thing over so I can see what I'm doing here. And I need to get the right Allen wrench for that. And obviously I'm kidding. Okay. All right, steering gearbox. Got a couple things I have to do while I'm hooking this up. Let's see. The steering wheel is straight there, which means this thing is not set straight. So I gotta turn it, figure out where center is. Let me go all the way to a lock. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I go back 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. So that is centered, which means it should plug into my steering box there, which it looks like it's going to. All right, 2 bolts are in. Let me just throw a nut on this top one so it doesn't fall off. All right, there's that one. All right, those 2 bottom ones are tight. Just need to get the top one, which is gonna have to be done with a wrench, unfortunately, because of the angle. So, get this out of my way. At least the upside of this one is like at least it's easy to get to. All right, that is nice and secure. Bolts are all tight. Now I need to hook the rag joint back in, which, there they are. And now I need a couple 1/2-inch wrenches. Let's see if this is lined up and we'll go back on. Look at that, perfect. All right. That's back together. I gotta put the nut on from the bottom and tighten the living shit out of it. Need a 1/2-inch wrench or a pair of 1/2-inch wrenches. All right, I believe we are good there. All right, rag joint's tightened up. I need to put the nut back in. It's under the fender here. And then I need to put the pitman arm nut on from below. Let's see if I can get under here to actually be able to get on the car. Here we go. All right. Needs a little help going up. Let's see here. I'll have to put the nut on, tighten it, and then take the nut back off to put the lock washer on for the nut. Should have got it up enough high, or high enough. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Yep. Maybe. There it goes. All right, I think we're good. Let's see what happens here. In high, currently is, actually it is in high. All right, I think we're in good shape there. All right, and there you have it. Power steering gearbox is back installed. Once I get the engine in here, I can mount the power steering pump, hook up the lines, which all of that is sitting as one unit over in a bucket. I did not want to drain the system. I didn't want to disconnect the hoses from the pump since I was pulling the whole thing anyway. So that's over there in a bucket. Once the motor's on, once the engine's in, I will mount the power steering pump on the engine, hook the hoses back up, and we'll be back in business. I'll have to bleed, or I guess bleed, the power steering gearbox. There's a way to do that. It's pretty simple. All you do is get the wheels off the ground, make sure your fluid in your pump is full and you've got fluid back to the power steering gearbox. And then all you do is with the car off, you just turn the wheel back and forth. And by doing that, it's gonna suck some of that fluid into the power steering gearbox and hopefully remove all the air bubbles or most of the air bubbles. And then when you fire the car up, you should have power steering. So that's it. Thanks for joining.